speaking of news, we were talking a couple of weeks ago. Was it last week? The week before? About how the EU was starting to slap Google's wrist, and we talked a little bit about government involvement and things like that. Well, it looks as if our own federal government is starting to get involved in the world of mobile carriers and OSs, specifically around security fixes. The FCC and the FTC, the Federal Communications Commission and the Federal Trade Commission, are calling on Google, Samsung, HTC, LG, Motorola, BlackBerry, and Apple to report on how security updates are being handled on the different mobile operating systems. They're concerned with the delays in delivering security patches, also mentioning that older devices don't get updates. They also contacted the 4 major carriers in the U.S. along with TracFone and U.S. Cellular. So it looks as if somebody in the government didn't get the latest Android update and wants to know why.
I mean, by and large, this is filled out with Android OEMs for the most part. Well, I mean, I was going to say except for Apple and maybe BlackBerry, but BlackBerry is an Android OEM now too. So there you go.
Well, they are, but they still have got BlackBerry OS hanging on by dear life.
Are they doing any more devices in BlackBerry OS going forward? But they still have their legacy ones.
Because how can you, it's like leaving somebody
that's
on a mountain.
kind of what this is all about, right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to leave somebody on the mountain alone.
Yeah, that's true.
Stranded.
I don't know, Gina, do you think when the FCC comes a knocking and the FTC comes a knocking,
when they both come a knocking?
Yes, at the same time. It's a really loud knock. Could this lead to significant change? And I think the question beyond that is, when would we ever see it? How long would it take? I don't know. Do you think this is possible?
Yeah, I mean, I want this to change. We all want this to change. This is sort of like the scourge, of particularly on Android, right? And listen, if it takes the FCC and the FTC prompting them to get the full story, and this is clearly, the first step toward something, toward some movement, then yes, I'm in full support. I want to know why it takes longer for upgrades and security fixes to get out on older phones. And so I'm all in favor. Let's hear it. I want to hear it from everybody.
I would like to see one of those Senate hearings with the room full of people and the cameras and the senator from Iowa banging on to asking for order and then calling out the AT&T representative to find out why it took 4 months for an update to roll out to Samsung users. I mean, it's the level of granularity that they potentially can get between the Android operating system rollouts and when the individual manufacturer updates happen and things like that. This could be very confusing, boring sessions, I think. But it's curious that the government is taking notice. And generally, I prefer the government to not get involved because that's when you have odd restrictions and things forced upon you, which is never good. You don't want to stifle innovation, but clearly enough citizens have complained that it got their notice.
Maybe this will be like somebody will enact a law and be like, you have to support this phone for up to 2.5 years or else you're going to put the American citizens in grave danger. Mm-hmm. And then that's a huge win for people who are using all those.
I wonder, I guess what I'm wondering is how do you make that happen? There's obviously a really big bottleneck that's happening time and time again. There's also a lack of interest, I think, to a certain degree for updating older devices when they have new devices coming out. OEMs, by and large, probably want to spend their time focusing on the things that are going to make them money instead of the things that have already made them money.
I know.
But I mean, what about the kind of just the, taking Android specifically, kind of the big hurdles that are present just in Android in general, as far as this is concerned, and I mean, Google's already doing its part, I would say. It's offering monthly security updates. It's offering this out to OEMs. It's
doing the hard work for the OEMs when you think about it. So we're going to take care of these things for you.
Except that there, and most recently, there just a couple of days ago, in fact, last week, in fact, there's a critical bug that was detected in Android that while Google has gone ahead and patched it as of the May 1st security patch, 34% of Android phones will never get the patch because they're running Android 4.3 or less.
Mm-hmm. So,
right.
So there's a huge, basically it's a second story on the rundown there, Brian. It's there was the security firm FireEye detected this access that allows low privilege apps to access sensitive data that's supposed to be off limits including like call lists and text messages and things like that. Like this is bad. And sure, all of us that are current on our phones and getting the security updates are gonna get a patch and it won't be a problem. But we look at the numbers on a monthly basis now. How many are running 4.3 or earlier? This vulnerability will be out there and people are exposed.
Yeah.
So this is a great example.
No, I mean that's a perfect example, right? And at what point? Yeah, like how old are these devices that are running that version of the OS? And I don't know.
But what are you supposed to do? Just leave those people in the dust? Like, I just feel like this becomes an issue of classism a little bit. It's like the idea that if you can't afford a new phone, then you shouldn't be protected. I don't know. Maybe I'm taking
you mean that's what this is illustrating?
Did you say that out loud, Flo? Did you say that if you can't afford a new phone, you shouldn't be allowed to be protected?
No, I'm just saying that. I'm saying that's what it sounds like.
That's what sounds. That's like what it conveys.
The FTC and the FCC would like to prevent.
Right.
That sort of thing, and to not like have companies basically rule this ecosystem that has been created.
So then, but where do you draw the line then? I mean, if it's coming from the government, if there is like if this actually leads to some sort of like action on the government says, this is the line and we are drawing the line, you have to support, provide support for 2 years, let's say.
Yeah.
But, who knows the history? I mean, we've seen that versions stick around for a really long time. Maybe 2 years isn't long enough, and that still leaves X percentage of people completely unprotected. Like, where do you ever draw that line?
Here.
Because you're always going to screw somebody in that regard. So I don't know if that helps.
It wasn't back in like 2011 or 2012. There was the Open Handset Alliance put together, the Android Update Alliance, and all these companies got together and they said, we're going to issue timely updates within 18 months. All of our handsets will be upgraded. And everybody was like, yay. And then it was just like crickets.
Oh, complete crickets.
Oh my gosh, right? It was like, okay, this thing happened. Nothing's going on with it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if they can't do it themselves. And obviously they tried to do it. They made that announcement. I'm looking up the news stories now. This is back in like May of 2011. It's 2016.
2011. That's like before I started covering Android. This has been going down.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's Brian's interpretive dance of the Open Handset Alliance. For the past 5 years.
It is the song of my people.
I just think we need an entire overhaul. I might get too deep into it, but I was listening to like a podcast the other day just about like e-waste and all that. And so whenever I think about like old phones, I just think about, okay, we're going to get rid of those phones. Where are they going to go? So it's just this whole like train of thought that goes, we really need to kind of overhaul what we're doing with all these little devices that are a part of our lives and figure out where our future fits. Where they fit in our future.
Man, you're getting existential after your birthday now, aren't you? It's like, another year.
Ron, it's a new decade. What do you expect from me?
where are all these phones gonna go? You guys know that there are landfills around the world filled with phones.
So many landfills.